So I just met with my life group, basically a beautiful group of women, and then we get together for fellowship and just, doing life together. And so this was our first time meeting at one of the other ladies' homes. Usually I host, or one of the leaders of the group, she hosts in her home. And so this was at someone else's home. And she's become such a sweet friend. And where they live now, kid you not, is like right around the corner from a home that we used to live in. So you may be wondering, okay, well, why are you telling us about a home you used to live in? And I want to share this home with you and the story behind it, because this is some of the worst moments for us, when it came to money and money mindsets and all of that. And so this was actually the very home I lived in when we lost our home. It was after the Great Recession. Prior to that, so before I had kids, I was working in timeshare sales and marketing. And with the recession, I lost my job. And also around this time. So this home signified a lot of key moments in our life as far as just things that happened. Our son was also diagnosed with autism, sensory processing disorder, and speech apraxia, which later on we will come to know that, he is non-speaking. And it was also the home where I've ever had a car repossessed. And I remember, so I'm going to talk to you about that moment. It's at a moment when I looked out my my house, the sliding glass door, and I see them taking our car, our only mode at the time of transportation, away. Yeah. My only mode of transportation. We still had my husband's car. But it was really my only mode of transportation for myself and the kids, and they were taking that away. And it was in that moment where I just felt I failed at so many levels as a mom. We had accumulated so much medical expenses and debt for our son. He was in and out of the hospital a lot. Definitely the first 3 years of his life. And, close to 3 years of his life. Right before we moved into the condo. And then also, we were taking him to a private autism center, and which literally cost more, about 3 times more than our mortgage every month to take him to the center. And it was in that moment where you felt like you failed so much as a parent, an adult at life. And it would take years of healing, of doing the work to help me recover from that moment. And so I look back at that as I'm driving, and I just reflect on how the life I have now is what I have prayed for, is what I had begged God desperately for. Because prior to that, years ago, this was over a decade ago, right? Well over a decade ago. We're talking, my son's 16 now, so 14 years ago. Yeah. Life is not where it is now. And so the lesson here, I guess, that really came through for me, the first part is everything I have now is something I had prayed for. And this isn't to, you know, how sometimes we want something and we're like, oh, I should feel content with what I have. But it is truly like, when we talk about gratitude, I think sometimes we think of it as this fluffy feeling. We just feel grateful. But in that moment, as I was driving by and I decided to like actually drive around, I felt pure gratitude for where we are now. Like everything we get to experience now, God's blessing now. And so that's that first piece. The second piece of it was, so we spent years on paying off our debt, you know, went to court, pay, you know, whatever, certain amount, things like that. Renegotiating my student loan because I couldn't make like the full payments on it. And so all that stuff, right? And then the HOAs and money we owed there, and then making payments on all those things. But what we learned then was the Dave Ramsey principle of like never being in debt. And debt became this horrible thing that was over our shoulders. And I was like, I need to get this out of my life. Like never again. Needless to say, we had to cut a few things. We had to cut several things. We had to cut the therapy center our son was going to because we just could not afford to do it. And I have so many lessons I've learned for that period of time. I learned the value of money. What I mean by that is I learned through my healing, through working through money trauma, because where I am now, it took years